Okay, we're alive.
All right, perfect. So what did you put for number 1?
So I'll just read the question and then I'll say what I wrote. What doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate? Why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart to be passionate and persistent? I said he wanted all men to be treated as equal. He really hated the idea of buying and selling human beings. Seeing the terrible conditions of the slave ships and hearing about the terrible injustices committed against the slaves disgusted him. He couldn't understand that all men were created equal, yet some felt they could own and abuse others. So the doctrine is that all men are created equal, but that wasn't happening. And the doctrine of the family is so important to have in our hearts because it will fuel the fire that drives us to advocate for people and for change. Without that fire, it would be easy to quit when faced with strong opposition. It's also really important to remember the truth.
All right, so I put, he has the idea to treat others as you want to be treated, and that all men are created equal. And I just felt like he had the pure love of Christ in him, or charity. He believes that all men were created equal, so he has sympathy for the slaves because he believes that they should be treated as equals. He thought of slavery as a small amount of arsenic, just enough to kill you. The doctrine is important for myself as a family advocate because that means that I'll have to stand up for what I know to be wrong, just like he did in defending what you know to be right, true, and ethical. Okay. Do you want me to read number 2?
Sure.
How did Wilbur employ a theoretical Bronfenbrenner approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one individual, at least one thing in each system, and be specific. Do you want me to read it first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so for individual, I put William has a troubled past. He is haunted by the memories of situations in which he acted differently. There are several situations and people that he treated in ways that he disapproved of and wished that he could have changed it. This drove him to change, and he wants everyone to be treated as equals. For the microsystem, I put his family and close friends were on his side through what he was trying to accomplish. One of his good friends was William Pitt, who became prime minister, and he was on his side and defended what William believed in, and Pitt wanted him to be in Parliament with him no matter to what extent. And for mesosystem, there were several situations in which William and his community tied together and worked together, and they brought up a petition in Parliament in order to abolish the slave trade. The community worked together to gather over 30,000 signatures, and they were working together in order to create a change. And then exosystem, William has gotten involved in legal services in order to abolish the slave trade. He has gathered evidence in how unethical and inhumane it is. Him and his team have worked together to gather those signatures. They gathered testimonies of people, and they gathered evidence against the slave trade. And then macrosystem, the culture is split between two parties. One party is for the trade of slaves, and the other side is for the abolishment of the slave trade, and they are divided by a very separate belief. Okay, now what did you put for that?
I said he worked to abolish slavery in each level of the systems theory. In the microsystem, he used emotions to persuade the people who were more influential in the slave trade regulations. He wanted each individual to feel the consequences and impact of slave trade. And I used when he took them in the boat to see the ship, as that was my example for that one. In the mesosystem, he worked with the other people who were trying to abolish slavery. They worked with him to influence influential people. So all the men and women that he worked with, they yeah, kind of confusing. The exosystem is the way the government rulings affect the people. So the bill they proposed would affect more than just slave ships, like the bill about the flags would affect ripple out. In the macro system, he worked to abolish slavery from England. He knew that change would begin with his own country. He worked to change the policies governing the country. Initially, he found out that the men were too set in their ways to change in the house. The chronosystem, the ultimate goal was to abolish slavery from the earth. He was not successful in that, but he was willing to make other countries responsible for their actions with his proposed bills. For number 3, how did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research? What evidence did they provide to persuade those opposing or on the fence? I said they collected signatures on petitions. They gathered firsthand accounts, figures, statistics, diagrams, and examples. He built a box representing the quarters of a slave on a slave ship to demonstrate the inhumane treatment of the slaves. Ultimately, the testimonials were used to persuade. They talked about people who had seen slave ships in their terrible conditions. They provided figures like how 400 out of 600 slaves had died on one slave ship trip. They showed the people the stench of death, and they tried their best to prove that these slaves are human beings.
Okay, so I put, they provided a petition that had collected over 30,000 signatures of members of the community that had wanted to abolish the slave trade. They brought a group of people over to the slave trade boat, and they could smell the rot, decay, and waste from several yards away. This was a wake-up call to how awful the conditions that the slaves were living in, and there were demonstrations and a reading of facts to a dinner party that William had hosted at his home. A display of chains and irons were set out, showing how the slaves were contained. And then Thomas had read a list of facts about the slaves' treatment, including the small quarters that they were living in, the waste they couldn't escape, and the small food rations. All of this evidence they had gathered and presented was against the slave trade. Okay, and number 4 says, how does the film portray the importance of working together as a group? What has family advocacy group work taught you? And so I kind of answered both of those questions in one answer. So just the film shows that you can't make a large change alone, and then to answer both of them, you need to have people on your side regardless of what you're trying to change. You need support. You can't change the fate of a country by yourself.
I said without the efforts of the whole group, they would not have been so successful. I think that each person contributed to the cause, and together they were a powerhouse. There is power in numbers. They were able to be more motivated by encouraging each other in the work. They were able to share ideas and work apart so that they could cover more ground. Not each person was recognized by all as a part of the group, so they could have a little bit more anonymity. Some of the members weren't as prominent in the community, so they were able to do some things without causing a stir. I've learned just how important it is to work as a team. We can bounce ideas off one another. We can also better understand our resources when we share them with each other. I'm impressed by the encouragement I feel when I work with a team. The work seems a little easier when we are not doing it all on our own, like the group website project. It's nice not to have to do that whole thing by myself. So what parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni in Alma 46? What is a Christian and professional family advocate, and how did Wilbur exemplify that? How can you be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices? So I just made a list of the parallels that I saw. There were opponents who were wroth and wanted to take him down. And by him, it's generally both of them. The opponents were seeking power and to maintain power. He was angry with those opponents. He made his position known even though it wasn't popular. He rallied the people who believed in his cause. He wanted to support those who believed and help them fight for what is right. He spent his days working to uphold the truth and what is right. I said a Christian and professional family advocate is someone who advocates with a strong set of values and a deep understanding of what they want to accomplish. They want to uphold God's ideals while helping his children. Wilbur exemplified that by advocating for the abolition of slavery so that God's children could be treated equally. He knew that men were created equal, and he wanted to support that truth. I think that we can boldly share our beliefs in a kind way. Our purpose is not to offend others, but share our beliefs. If other people are offended, it will be because of their own insecurities. We need to be tactful in our approach. This reminds me of the code of ethics for family life educators. Another thing we can do is be constant. We cannot change our minds or our doctrine. If we are inconsistent, our opposition will tear us apart. The goal is not necessarily to be the loudest, but to be the most persuasive, and the Spirit will help us to persuade.
Okay, so I just put that Captain Moroni and William both had an opposing force, someone who wanted to tear them down, but they rallied up the community to stand up against that and fight for what they knew was right. And then I put, in order to be Christ-like, we need to have charity and compassion for others, regardless of how different they are from us, because people are going to have different beliefs and views and lifestyles, and we just need to live them regardless, but still stand up for what we know is right. Okay, so Marcia Barlow spoke on persuasive speaking and writing. Did Wilbur and others exemplify any of Marcia's ideas? How so? So one thought that comes to mind is how Marcia talked about putting your emotion into what you say. Literally everything Wilbur said had his emotion in it. He was so passionate about freeing the slaves that he didn't care what anyone else thought of him. He used stories about the slaves while he was incorporating the facts about their lives and how they were treated. One more thing, we need to have the data to lead us while we still have our emotions tied up into what we believe. Wilbur was very caught up in freeing the slaves, and he put so much time, effort, and emotion into what he was doing, but he always made sure that he had the facts behind him. The examples of facts are the chains the slaves were bound in, the evidence documents, or the petition of people who were against it.
I talked mostly about how he used personal experiences to strengthen his argument, whether they were his own or other people's personal accounts. He taught them that it affected everyone and why it was important now and needed to be stopped. He told an engaging story backed with research, evidence, and statistics. His argument was not merely an opinion. They were very persuasive through these methods. They all contributed to a well-designed platform and execution. So then, what role did the government, policy, and religious freedom play in the fight of the slave trade? Did you see their political system being pro-family? Why or why not? Answer all questions. The government allowed the slave trade to continue operating, at least till the very end. They did not create laws that would govern the trade, and they did not uphold any regulations that did exist, like the space and number of slaves on the ships that they were allowed to carry. They were profiting from trade and did not want to see it end. That reminded me of that movie Taken. Have you seen that one?
A long time ago.
Yeah, well, all the government, like the police and the officials in charge, are all profiting like from that prostitution ring, and so they didn't want to see it end. They didn't want to make it stop because they didn't want money to stop. So I think that's really interesting how money and power are such huge factors in things like this.
Yeah.
The policies were not strict and most importantly not upheld. The men who actually ran the trade would break laws without consequences. Religious freedom was not. Am I reading the right thing? Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. I had a separate little tiny paragraph. Was not really part of the equation. Each member of the House wanted their own freedom, but did not work to uphold it for others, namely the slaves. I did not really see their political system being pro-family. They seemed mostly pro-themselves. They wanted whatever benefited themselves. I had a hard time deciding, I thought.
No, I did too. All right, so I'll go ahead and read my answer. I put government and religion were both huge in the community during this period in time. The government was involved in almost everything that happened, and the people weren't really free. During this time, Christianity was the dominant religion in England. What brought William to his lifestyle change and belief on the abolishment of slavery was his religious beliefs. He had a change of heart over the course of his life, and his past had haunted him. He brought these beliefs to the political system, Parliament, and he brought about change. I don't see the political system being pro-family. I have a hard time deciding if there was any pro-family in there or not. I feel like most of the members of Parliament were loyal to the crown, or like you said, money or whatever benefits them. But I felt like William and a few of his friends were pro-family, but as a whole, I feel like they weren't.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Okay, and then number 8. Do you feel that William used his time on Earth well? And how do you see him showing the elements of consecration that Elder Christofferson spoke of? So Wilbur made mistakes throughout his life, as we all do, but I think that he had a change of heart and put the rest of his time on Earth to good use. William showed integrity in his marriage, and what he did, he cared greatly for his wife and his children. He didn't take to worldly possessions, as other people did, and when there were beggars at his door, he told his manservant to feed him breakfast, and it turned out there were more mouths to feed than he anticipated, but it didn't bother him. And he enjoyed the simple things in life. His favorite pastime was spent in the garden, pondering about nature and life. And he preferred the simple things over big fancy parties. He was a hard worker, and he fought very hard for what he knew and believed to be right.
I feel that he did use his time on Earth well. Like you said, we all make mistakes, and we have different parts of our lives that are different. But I think he worked really hard to have his agenda be successful. He gave it all that he had. He struggled with motivation at some points, but with some encouragement, he got going again, making more progress each time. His efforts were driven by the purity of equality. He worked so hard to reach his goals. I think he struggled with respecting his body as he continued to push when it was dangerous to his health. He served others as he worked to secure their freedom and fair treatment. He had integrity as he campaigned to abolish the slave trade. This integrity means that he continued to do what he felt was right no matter what. And then any other profound thoughts or personal insights from the movie that are related to child and family advocacy? I thought it was interesting that this was not always his cause. He was persuaded to fight for the abolition of the slave trade, and that means that we can learn our passions from others. I thought it was interesting how he took mercy on the beggar, like you talked about, instead of turning him away, because we should not base our service on the return that it will yield. I was really struck by the quote that said, "Slavery insults man's nature." I thought that was really good. I felt really strongly that it's important to advocate for others, but to remain faithful to our own families, because we need to care for our families in addition to serving others. It can't be neglecting our family to serve other people. Even when it's difficult, we must remain motivated.
Okay.
Those are extra thoughts.
What I was thinking while I was watching this movie is that we could use more people that have the passion that William does in the roles of family advocates. I know that there are people out there that are probably like him, but I think that a good portion of the people are too ho-hum and unmotivated about what they do. There isn't that passion anymore. And then people think that, oh, what's the big deal? It doesn't matter. So people worry too much, I think, about offending other people.
Yes.
And so I think that's a problem, because somebody's always going to be offended no matter what you do. So you just have to do what you do is right.
Well, I think now being offended is like popular.
I know.
If you're not super mad about a shirt with a word on it, or like yesterday, people are mad because Target made a shirt with the word trophy on it for their like bridal wife collection, because that's oppressive and that's super offensive. And okay, so we're not possessions, we're not to be owned or won or whatever, but like, why do we have to make it a big huge deal and viral this like t-shirt that is actually kind of funny? Like,
don't buy it if you don't like it.
Huh?
Don't buy it.
Right, exactly. But now let's be angry and let's rally against Target for one t-shirt that doesn't even.
That's stupid.
I know. It's not like I don't know what would be offensive.
I don't know.
A
naked lady. That's all I can think of.
That's offensive, or a big fat F word. I think that's offensive.
Yeah.
It's not like a silly joke, because let's be honest, who doesn't want to be a trophy wife?
I know. We all want it deep down. They're just mad.
I think it's more that a man like puts you high up as like, I don't know, Christ. Why wouldn't we want to be Christ?
Yeah. No,
But,
I agree.
yeah. Now it's like scary to say anything because
I know. And then it's always the little things. And it's like it's not even a big deal. Just roll it off your shoulder.
Right. I feel like it's in like the last year that people get super offended about stuff. And then the minute you say something they don't agree with, you're like an ignorant bigot and ruin everybody's life.
Like that makes me think of the gay marriage.
Yes.
Like there are lots of like wedding photographers or venues, and they don't want to have a gay marriage there or support that just because they don't believe in it. And people have actually gone out of business because they've turned down, and that's discrimination. And
there's a bakery. I just moved to Portland, Oregon, and there's a bakery here that's been reduced to making cakes out of their house because they had made cakes for this gay couple before, like for birthdays or something. But when they came to them asking for the wedding cake, they said no because they don't support that. And now they owe the couple $135,000 for emotional, I don't know, damages, I guess, because
that's ridiculous.
One of the women cried and cried and cried because they wouldn't do her cake. So now she gets $70,000 and her partner gets $60,000, or I don't know, it's something like that. But it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like, just go get your cake somewhere else. It's not even a big deal.
Yeah. There's this Chinese place in Colorado Springs where I'm from, and it says, "We reserve the right to not serve any troublemaker." We can not serve people we don't want to, but not when it comes to somebody who is a lesbian.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like that companies have the right to refuse service.
Right, exactly. And they have the right to have beliefs.
You know, actually, I was reading this on the news a few days ago. I can't remember where it was. It was back east in, like, Michigan or something like that, somewhere around there. And this Catholic group, they were a Catholic adoption agency, and they're actually, like, it's like a nasty, like, lawsuit, and like, I don't know, it's a mess. I can't remember what happened. I think that they don't exist anymore. But some gay couples wanted to adopt from them, and they're like, no, we don't support that. You can't adopt our children, and they like blew it up. They were so upset. And I'm like, well, why are you going to a Catholic adoption agency if you're gay?
Right.
Go
to a date or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, there's your first problem, but like, I don't know. Like, so a lady back at home from my home ward, she adopted a child from China, and you actually have to have certain weight requirements.
Really?
Yeah, from the agency she adopted from. And she was talking to the caseworker over there, and she's like, we don't want our children to go into fat homes and become fat themselves.
Oh.
So I thought that was crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of something like that before.
Yep. So what question are we on now?
Oh, 10. We've got 2 more. Which is good, because we've got like 10 more minutes. Huh?
Okay. I was just gonna start reading the question, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
What was your understanding of the doctrine of how the family what was your understanding of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of the semester, and how has it changed? So throughout the semester, even before the semester started, I always knew that you need a mommy and a daddy, and like I always knew that was important, but I feel like I've gained an understanding of why that's important and just how crucial it is, and also the entitlement that children have to the mother and a father, because you can't replace those. And I feel like I know better the uniqueness and importance of how crucial these roles are.
So I said that the doctrine of the family to me hasn't really changed. I also understand it a little bit better because we've learned a lot from different people's perspectives. And then I've read some things separately, like the kids who speak about why having two mommies or two daddies was not a good thing for them. So I think that's really interesting. But I have a stronger desire to uphold it and to share it with others now. I want to be persuasive and effective in my advocacy for the family. I have a better understanding of how to go about advocating for the family, and the doctrine of the family is a constant. It is the truth. And I have a stronger testimony of that. Especially like with the gay marriage thing, I've been confused about how to feel about that for the last couple of years. And I didn't really know like which way I should support or if I should not, or I didn't really know. I didn't understand how it would affect me if they got married. So that was my big hang up. I was like, well, yeah, we have agency, so I guess if we can choose to get married, then we can choose that.
Well, so like I was kind of the same too, because before I would think, oh, what's the big deal if they want to do that? It's their life. But now I think, you know, I don't think that they deserve marriage. I think that if they want to be in those relationships, that's their choice, you know. You can't make them not do it, but I don't think that they deserve the legal standing of husband and wife.
I read we read one of those is it Matt Walsh, the one who's super like outspoken? We had to read one of his articles, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I read a different one too, and it was why this affects you and how this matters, or like why this matters and how it affects you. And he talked about how it's basically reducing marriage to nothing, because it doesn't matter, because it's gay marriage really opens the gates. And I'm not like one of those crazy suddenly we're going to have animal marriages. I'm not like, I mean, some people argue that, and that's kind of extreme, but it really is opening the doors to other forms of marriage. And
well, no, it does, because literally like less than a week after it happened, have you heard of the show Sister Wives?
Yes. So yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Yeah, so actually, so he used to live in Utah. I think they live in Nevada now. He used to be Mormon, and like he went on a mission and all that jazz. But he went forward and he spoke out and he said, "Oh, I've been just so inspired by the gays and the, you know, the obstacles they've overcome, that I'm going to push for polygamy to be legalized." Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's going to happen. And that was within less than a week that he came forward and said he was going to do that.
Yeah.
So
I didn't hear about that specifically, but I saw a post on Facebook. One of my friends liked it or something. And it was, I'm so excited for this because I have my husband and we have this extra girlfriend and I can't wait for us to be a family. And it's like, oh gosh, this is going to get crazy. And then what about family members getting married? Because
and I think
each other and they're adults.
Yeah. Well, what about children though? Because I hear about stories on the news where an older man manipulated this 12-year-old girl, and she totally loves him because she knows nothing else, nothing better. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, so what if she's like, "Oh, but I love him," and they want to get married, you know?
The only hang up I see with that is that she wouldn't be a consenting adult.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the strongest.
I feel like that's something that might be pushed for, though, anyways.
That's true. I know. Yeah.
Because people are crazy and do crazy things.
They are crazy. Frustrating. So the family is going down the toilet, but not really. But the definition and the culture of it it's sad. And it's funny. I think the problem is that we're a culture obsessed. It's not so much that there are so many gay people or so many incestuous or polygamous people. It's that we're like obsessed with that. And that's all we can talk about.
So they're the minority in here, you know. Mm-hmm. And I get so upset, like, why are we trying to appease the minority when the majority of us are straight, heterosexual, monogamous? Why isn't that the central focus? Because that's what most of us are.
And my other thing is, like, if people aren't getting married, then why is it such a big deal? The divorce rate is way down because people aren't getting married. They're just living together and having families and pretending.
Yeah.
And then now they have to get married because they're gay. So,
Well, I had a boss at my last job who was gay. He had a partner. They lived together. And I overheard him talking about it to a coworker because she, like, is, like, totally left-wing liberal. Like, she would go protest at any cause that has to do with all this crap. And he was just like, oh, so if you and so-and-so, if that was legal, would you guys get married? And he's like, no, that's stupid. Like, he thinks it's stupid. But there are people like her who believe that everyone should have rights for every little stupid thing, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, and he's like, I just wish that the straight people would leave us alone. He's like, I just want to be left alone and live my life.
Well, it is like straight people pushing an agenda.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of frustrating.
All the gay people I know could give two craps about what happens, but...
Yeah. But the straight people want equality for everybody. And then women are turning into men and men are turning into women, and it's getting so confusing.
Yeah, and I wonder, so what, how is that going to go down with marriage? Like, are you considered the husband or the wife?
I don't know. But if there's two women, then who's the husband and who's the wife?
You know, actually, I was also reading the news again, and then I think it was in California, but I'm probably wrong. There was a judge who refused to put both of the moms on the birth certificate, which I think is fair because you have to have both a paternal and a maternal space on the birth certificate. And I'm like, well, you can't have a kid from two moms.
Right. That's physically impossible.
I know. And I'm like, it's not even just a fact of, like, gay marriage stuff. It's a fact of science and biology.
Yeah.
Bother.
I thought it was so funny. A couple years ago, this man on the cover of magazines with a pregnant belly saying the first pregnant man or something like that, but he's not a man.
He's a tranny.
He's a woman. Yes. Yeah. That's not a pregnant man. That's a pregnant woman.
Yeah, seriously. It's a girl.
Right? I'm like, so hard.
Possible.
Yeah. I really hope that I never have to deal with that, like, intimately, like with my son or something.
I know, I've always worried about that. Like, what will my children be like? Ugh.
I know. And my sister's 16, and she's, like, really confused. She doesn't know. I don't know. And it's fine, because we're allowed to question, we're allowed to be confused, and she's 16, so she'll probably figure some stuff out. But it's scary to watch her following the trends of the world right now.
Yeah, I have a sister like that too, and it's really sad. Because you're just like, I can tell you what to do, and
right.
Well,
we're almost 8 years apart, and so I have a lot more life experience than she does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, let me just tell you about this, or why that's really stupid, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I guess she has to learn on her own. But I'm really scared because if it's like this already, I mean, I graduated high school, 6 or 7 years ago or something, and it's already completely different. High school is completely different than when I was there.
Yeah.
And I've got, 12 years before we're in high school again? That's crazy. I'm scared of what it's going to be like.
Well, I wonder what they're going to be teaching, like, in sex ed.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there's gay marriage. I mean, like, they can only say so much, but did you know that only 12 of the states were supportive of gay marriage and the rest of the 36 were not supportive?
I don't think I had heard those numbers. Yeah. I knew that it wasn't, like, unanimous, but...
Yeah, and so, like... But then the feds decided that it's okay to just make it legal everywhere when nobody even wanted it to begin with.
Well, now they're going to take away your guns, so...
I know, yeah.
We're facing the problems that the Constitution is talking about.
That is not going to fly for lots of people.
No.
at all.
Though I heard that they don't care about bows and arrows, so I'm thinking I might get a set of that.
I actually
At
did
least
a
something.
report on gun control a few years ago. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah?
It doesn't work.
No, because the
doesn't.
people who are going to do bad things with them are going to have them anyway. It's the good
Like,
people who would never hurt anybody who are going to give
I
them
can't
up.
think of a criminal I've heard of that has gotten his guns legally.
Right.
And I'm thinking, you know, if I wanted to stab you in the neck with a pen right now, like, I could do it. Like a pen, or
Right.
more people die from drunk driving or texting or alcohol overdose than they do by guns.
That's true.
It's
Or
just,
even the bomb.
yeah. People
That's pretty
get
effective.
more than they do killed by guns. Anyways, this is so off topic.
Hey, it's the doctrine of the family.
Yeah.
Okay, you can finish up with the last one though.
Okay.
So, picture your spouse and children, current or future, and write down some thoughts about how they will benefit from you taking the class. So I just went with, I have one little guy, but I went with future, so I said children. I will be a stronger advocate for my children. I will work to get them any help they need, and I'll support them in their endeavors. I'll be able to teach them how to be advocates. I didn't get too specific on this one, but I am better equipped to advocate for my marriage. A marriage is sacred and needs to be protected. I will work to protect my marriage so that I can be successful with my spouse. I will protect him and advocate for him when it is needed, and this will help us to strengthen our marriage to better weather the storms that lie ahead. So it's kind of vague, but
No, that's, yeah, me too, because I'm not married yet and I don't have any kids, and so I put I better know what's expected of me and my future husband and what we need to do. And so also what they can benefit from is that you need to stand up for what you believe in no matter what people think. And I think it's important that my whole family knows that people are going to be against you regardless of what you believe in. But I think especially for what we believe in now. So you have to stand up for it. But you have to stand up for it with compassion and not hate on people, and you're more likely to get people to listen, follow, and support you. So yeah.
good job. We are in the minority, that's for sure.
I know. It's pretty sad.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else?
No,
Nope, I think I'm good. We pretty much used the whole time we needed, so
yeah.
I think that's good. I will stop the broadcast.
All right.